Hey fam, welcome to another episode of Good, Bad, and Ugly about real estate. I got a great, outstanding guest for you, the Godfather of Wholesaling, Jerry Norton himself. Hi Jerry, how you doing today?
Good. How are you doing, Jose?
I'm doing awesome. Awesome. I've been looking forward to this episode for a long time. It's very special to me. One, it's my 50th episode, and I really wanted you to be that guest to kind of hit that one home for me. So I appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to be that for me, my 50th episode's guest. So thank you.
Good for you.
Normally I ask my guests, tell us a little bit about yourself and whatchamacallit, how you got into real estate. But I think your story is kind of pretty much out there. So I did a little bit of research before this episode and went back. It looks like you've been recording videos for 15 years. And in some videos, you have DC shirt on, and in some videos, you have a Marvel shirt on. So I got to ask you, are you the Batman of wholesaling or are you the Iron Man of wholesaling?
Well, what's funny is when I first started doing YouTube videos years and years ago, I had a superhero theme. And so what I would do is every video, I would have a different comic shirt on, and I would lead out with a quote from some kind of superhero. And I every time I would see some type of a superhero t-shirt, I would buy it. So I had literally hundreds of any kind of superhero t-shirt, but it was mostly Marvel and DC. So I had to cross universes because I needed more superheroes for the videos. You know what I mean? So yeah, so I wasn't loyal to either side there at all. It was more like, anything I could find that I could intro a video with.
And has that changed up to this point? Or are you kind of still in the
I kind of grew out of that. That was years ago. I kind of grew out of that because I was, I had no intention of ever building a YouTube channel like I did. It was really what it was is I was in education at the time, and I did a lot of email marketing to my subscribers, to my list, not even YouTube subscribers. And I wanted to start doing content to the list once a week. So I thought, okay, I want to make videos. I want to talk about topics where I'm not talking about a program or anything specific, not selling anything. I just want to give some value, and I want to do that once a week. So every Monday I would release a content video, and I figured YouTube was a great platform to host those videos. So I just hosted them on YouTube, but I had no intention of building an audience, of growing a channel, of becoming a YouTuber. It just happened to be YouTube was the platform to host the videos that I was sharing with my following, at the time. So, and that was kind of before social media was even as big a thing it is today. I mean, Facebook was around, but it wasn't like now today everyone tries to build a brand on social media. That wasn't really what was going on at the time. So, just in time, I ended up just continuing to make videos. And then I upped the game quite a bit in 2018. Instead of doing like one video a week, I started doing 3-4 videos a week. Well, for 6 months, I did a video every single day, 7 days a week, 6 months straight, a content video. And then I cut back a little bit to 3 or 4 videos a week since then. Right. So, I've now created thousands of videos on YouTube over years and years.
That's awesome. I mean, we all appreciate your sharing of your knowledge because we all benefit from it. So I can honestly say that I'm a subscriber to your channel and love the content that you're providing. And in fact, I was just watching.
Thank you for saying that. I mean, I did change the entire landscape of content because what would happen at the time, back in the day, is YouTube or social media would be a place where marketers would sort of create a lead magnet, we call it, but they would put out a little bit of information and then they would say, hey, if you want to get the rest of it, pay me or buy my program. So it was sort of like, here's the tractor. If you want the whole farm, you got to pay for it. And when I came along in content, I completely, disrupted the way that was done because I started giving the entire farm for free on YouTube, like all the steps, not here's steps 1 and 2. If you want the rest of the steps, pay me. It was, here's all 10 steps. I'm going to give it all to you. And so that really transformed the way content was done, because it basically killed home study courses. Home study courses are no longer really a thing, because why would you buy a home study course when all the content and all the information you could possibly dream of is free on YouTube now?
Exactly.
But that took a real disrupting mindset to change the way that was done. And what I did at the time, I saw it coming anyway. I said, you know what? Content is going to now become a commodity. It's going to become free, and everyone's going to have access to it. You're not going to be able to charge for information anymore. I mean, you could charge for coaching and software and specialized things, but information in and of itself, you no longer really have to pay for that. There's no paywall that's hiding behind. And it was for years. When I got started 20 years ago, you could not get information about how to wholesale or how to flip or how to really do real estate unless you paid somebody for that information. It wasn't available.
Right. And, like you said, now these days, information is almost everywhere. I mean, if you want to charge it, somebody else is going to do it for free. And
information no longer separates the successful from the unsuccessful, right? Because everyone has the same information. It's application. Great ideas are a dime a dozen. It's execution that really matters today. I tell my kids all the time, I said, with AI and technology and information and YouTube and content, what will make you successful in the world is not access to the information, but it's taking the information and applying it in the real world. That's where you make value. That's where you bring value to the world, is applying the information that's already available to everybody.
Right. So it's funny you bring up your kids, because I had a question about that. When I'm going back to your 15 years of videos, I see you and your wife with 6 kids in an RV. How does that work? I mean, that just seems like it's tough enough, raising kids, but 6 in a I would consider a tight space. Mm-hmm. How'd you do it? Share that.
Yeah, so we did a full-time RV trip for a year with 6 kids. Yeah, one of them was brand new baby. Our oldest was, I think, 13 at the time. And we traveled around the country in an RV. I mean, what we did do was if you saw this RV, it was incredible. It was a 50-foot toy hauler. We converted the toy hauler into a bunk room. We fit all the kids in the bunk room. We had a queen bed that came down, bunk beds on the sides, and kids on the floor. And then up in the front, they call it a Super C, if you know RVs. But we put a king bed up in the overhang of the cab. Okay. So my wife and I, we had a king bed in an RV. And then at night, we'd put the kids to bed. We'd lock the toy hauler, so they're all back there. And then we'd have the rest of the RV to ourselves. So nice. The RV worked great as long as we had good weather, because we were always outside. So, we would travel and sleep in the RV, but we were always doing activities. And but if it was like raining or if it was cold and we were trapped in that RV, then that didn't go so well, because it was pretty tight, that many people. But we loved it. It was absolutely a magical experience for our family.
So I want to get a little personal. I had to pull up my notes to make sure I asked these questions correctly. One of the things that I've learned about you through this process, you've been a part of the Owners Club and come to talk to us and sharing your home with us. So question is, how does your faith influence the way that you approach your real estate deals, and especially when it comes to like integrity, relationships, and serving others?
Well, because I have a platform to get in front of people, and it's very specialized, it's real estate investing, more specifically, it's flipping and wholesaling. So most of my content is centered around that, and that's what people come for, and that's kind of the main purpose. But I feel like I've got a tremendous opportunity to also share my beliefs about family, about marriage, about God. In most of my videos, you'll see it behind me. I have a statue of Jesus Christ, because I ask myself, okay, when you're a YouTuber, you have a background, and what message do you want to send to people with your background, right? Do I want to have, a football team in the background? Do I want to have pictures of cool things in the background? Like, do I want to have a quote of something in the back? Like, what do I want? Lights? And what do I want people to think of when they're in a video of mine. And so what I want people to know that I'm a Christian, because I believe that if you are, you need to be a beacon on a hill, and you need to be a light to the world. And so even if I'm not talking about religion, which I don't often, I want to still portray that integrity, honesty, spirituality, morals, ethics, family. Like, that's what I represent. That's what I stand for. And it shows, because my coaching students and a lot of the people that follow me tend to be family-oriented, faith-based people. Not everybody, obviously. And, sure, I'm accepting of different ideas, and, but this is me. This is who I am. If you like it, great. If you don't like it, you don't have to watch. That's what's great about the freedoms of being in America. Right. And so I get some pushback. I get some hate for, a little bit for speaking my mind and being okay to talk about politics or religion or whatever. But I figured, you know what? I don't really care. This is who I am, and I'm going to be real and authentic. Like it or not, that's your choice, and I'm totally fine with that too. So that's kind of how I approach it.
I appreciate that. As you can tell, I'm a man of faith, and want to kind of put that out there very boldly. And so that's one of the things that you and I share together.
Now, I am careful about it. I never want to come across like I'm using God as a way to sell something. And I see that, I see that quite often. And for me, that's a huge turnoff. Like, I see right through it. So I don't ever want to be that guy that's overdoing it to somehow build trust to people that will then buy something from me. That's not my intent at all. Right. And so you won't ever see me really pushing that agenda on anybody. It's just, if I have an opportunity to say or share, and you've heard me from stage, I'll talk about that a little bit, in my messaging. Sure. About family or God or my marriage or whatever the things are. And so, but I'm not going to push that on people as a way of gaining their trust. If you can't trust me for, you should always do business with somebody who you feel drawn to in a way that's real and authentic, not contrived.
Great advice. I totally agree with that. Another question. Real estate can be cutthroat industry. How do you stay grounded spiritually while navigating high-stake deals and competitive markets?
Well, I mean, I am a competitor at heart. I'm a killer. I wanna win. I like the win. It's the thrill of the chase. I have my shirt right now says "Hunt like a warrior." I feel like you've got to come at this business, any business, real estate, with a killer instinct. You got to be a fighter. That doesn't mean you do wrong to anybody. It just means I believe you have a responsibility to yourself, to your family, to your employees, to your team, to make the very most money you can and get the very best deal you can. You have an obligation to do that. It's your duty to do that, to win big at life, at business, at everything you do. Now, we can do that with full transparency, with full disclosure, with full honesty, with honoring other people. But for me, I want the best deal I can possibly get. Now, if that means that, a seller's bottom line is right here, I want to be, 1 inch above that. Whatever the floor is, I want to get the very best deal I can. If they're up here, I'm not going to force someone down here. I'm not going to manipulate or cheat or lie or convince, oversell somebody to do something that's not the right thing for them. If it's not the right thing, then hey, we can't really put a deal together, no problem. Or the number we're stuck at doesn't work, no problem. But I'm going to fight for the very best I can get in all that I do. And I think there's nothing wrong with that. I feel like in today's day and age, that somehow if you're a hunter, if you're a fighter, if you're willing to go to war in a way that's I want to try to make money. I want to try to build a business that somehow if you win, somebody else loses. Or if you make money, that means it's on the shoulders of somebody else. It's taking advantage of somebody else. And that's just a lie. That's not a true marketplace. A true marketplace is there's an exchange, and we have equal value in that exchange. And I'm winning and you're winning and everybody's winning in the transaction. And I believe that. And that's how I like to do business, is everybody's winning. And if everybody's not winning, then this isn't working and we don't have a transaction here. But there's a way in real estate where everybody wins. You get what you want and I get what I want. And that's a real capitalist marketplace.
And that was proven at Squad Summit, right? You were on the stage, we had our panel, and you get a random call. You had a lead that you didn't even know about, just came on your phone, probably 5 minutes, right? Then they say, oh, I want 500. You're like, well, I can't do no more than 295. And they're like, well, how close can you come? They say 350. In a matter of 2 minutes, you had them negotiate against themselves, and lost, I won't say lost, but reduced the price, 150K. And people was like, how do you do that? Well, they negotiated against them. I didn't do anything. That was a number that they were willing to come to, and you just pulled it out of them.
Yeah, and that's my job. My job is to find out what's the bottom line of the seller that they're happy with, that they're consciously aware of making a choice of, that before the speed and convenience of the offer I'm providing. That's my job, is to get the very best deal.
That's awesome. It was great to watch. And it's, like I said, proof is in the pudding, right? Some people are like, oh, you can't do that. Live on stage, random call, random lead.
Yeah,
I was 5-10 minutes before we got that call to go.
Yeah, I'm building a barn out here on my farm, and so I got a bunch of bids. And with every single bid I got, I said to the contractor, I said, look, thank you for providing your quote. Looks like it's got everything exactly the barn I want to build. And I said, is this the best price you can do? And guess what? He's like, well, I think I could knock off this much. And I said, okay, awesome. Is that the best price you can do? Then I'm quiet.
Yeah.
And he came down a little bit more. And I said, all right, I mean, that's helpful, but is that the best price you can do? I just kept asking the same question. He kept coming down and coming down. At some point he said, I can't go any lower. That's as low as I can go, and I said, okay, let's build a barn. And now it's his responsibility to decide how far down he wants to go. How bad does he want the job? Is he still making money? Can he fit it in between? You know what I mean? He's got a responsibility and I've got a responsibility. His responsibility is to make the most money he can. My responsibility is to get the best deal I can, and you get what you pay for. So sometimes if you take something too cheap, you're going to get that in return. You know what I mean? So I'm considering, show me that you're good at what you do. I want to see jobs you've done. I want to know that you're going to perform, because it's not just about price. But my point just is with that story is just that if you're going to win in this business, especially real estate, if you're going to be good at this, you've got to come to the table as a fighter and go for it and really come with all you've got. And that's a mindset, I think. That's a way of being that is missing. I see a lot of people timid, afraid, scared. They'll never make that. They'll never say, I need to be at the high 200s when they're asking 500. They're too afraid to do that. Right. And you got to get over that.
Agreed. Like I said, proof's in the pudding. You showed us 3,000 plus people is done. It can be done with the right person. So,
and I don't know if you know this, but I'm sure you don't, but I have, it's called executive function disorder, which is a form of ADHD.
Okay.
And it's been a major blessing in my life and a disadvantage in my life. But basically what it is I get so focused on something that I tune out everything else.
Okay.
And so on that call in front of 3,500 people, I locked in and no one was even with me. I was just in my own thing with this seller on this call. And I completely forgot for a moment that 3,500 people were watching me live do this call. And my wife saw it because she knows me. She's like, dude, you were in another world. And if you watch the video back, I'm sort of on the phone. I'm sort of looking into the stars, and I was oblivious of everything else going around me. And a lot of times in business, I lock in so focused on the work that the world around me could be burning to the ground, and I won't even notice it.
That's crazy.
Now that's really bad when, you should be paying attention to other things going on around you. So it does,
Sure.
it does tend to be a disadvantage a lot of times, but in business, it's been a tremendous blessing. And I think more people need that. They need to be able to lock in, concentrate, not get distracted by 1,000 things, hyper focus on the work. If I'm sitting down and I block out 3 hours to do calls, I'm doing calls for 3 hours and I'm all in. I'm not half-heartedly doing it. I'm all in doing it.
Right. So I kind of want to explore that a little bit. You mentioned about being focused and how it could be maybe a detriment in some cases. Given that you have built your company and you're well known and your time is being asked for by multiple people, you're talking on stages, you're doing your podcast or videos. How do you do for lack of better terms, work-life balance?
Well, I have to be, because of what I just said, I have to be very strategic and plan quite a bit and put some stops in place and some guardrails in place, because I like what I do and I could very easily work 100 hours a week and not even be tired or worn down. Right.
Or feel like you're working.
Yeah, but that's everything. When I tend to be very in the moment in all of my life. So, and I think then there's no such thing as balance. I think that's a myth. It's more like compartmentalize. So what I mean by that is my office, I work from home, but my office has to be detached from the living environment. So right. I won't have an office in the main house. It's got to be detached from the house. Like this, where I'm at right now is out, 100 yards from the house. And so when I leave work, I can leave work and I can go home and be home now. And now I'm 100% home. If I'm spending time with my wife on date night, I want to be 100% present with her. So it's just, if I'm with my kids, I want to be 100% into the kids. If I'm at church, right. I don't want to be on Zillow looking at houses for sale. I want to be, paying attention. So it's just learning how to take hyper focus and then just segment out your life and apply that focus, but only in the areas where you need to be at that moment in time. And then just get very smart about how you plan out your week and your days so that you're fitting in the other things in life that really matter. Because if you leave an entrepreneur alone to his own devices, he'll tend to be a workaholic. And right. in that workaholism, he'll neglect other areas of his life. He'll neglect his health, his spirituality, oftentimes his marriage and his family in the pursuit of building the business. And it's very common. So I don't want to be, most guys my age that are entrepreneurs are divorced and estranged from their kids.
Right.
I'm 47 and most entrepreneurs blow it because they work so hard that they neglect their family and they're divorced or on multiple relationships by my age. And I don't want that to happen. So I have to be very strategic about how I compartmentalize my time.
Well, I think you're doing a pretty good job of it. I mean, you got 10 kids, right? So I think Anne-Marie does not feel like she's being neglected.
Well, I mean, it's easy to do. So I don't do it perfectly all the time, but it's a priority. So I have to constantly work at it.
Right. Absolutely. So I was watching some of your recent videos, a couple with Pace and stuff, and I see you identify like what's going on in Arizona, Tennessee, and in South Carolina. How do you foresee the future of wholesaling with all of these legal battles coming out of these bills being written?
The future of wholesaling. I mean, people don't like to hear me talk about this because it's upsetting, it's frustrating. I get accused of fear mongering and all these other things, and I'm just, don't shoot the messenger. I'm just telling you what's going on. Sure. And bringing the awareness to everybody. And most educators shy away from it because it might hurt our industry, might hurt sales. People might not sign up for coaching. And so let's just gloss over what's happening. But I don't. I do what's right because it's the right thing to do. And the right thing to do right now is the wholesaling industry has got to step up. They've got to make changes in how we operate. We've got to come together more. We've got to get more organized. We've got to stop doing these things that are getting the negative attention that are harmful to sellers. Even if they're not harmful to sellers, if the regulators think they're harmful to sellers, then they're going to be coming down on us. And honestly, I'm good friends with Jeff Watson. He's an attorney out of Ohio, probably one of the most respected real estate attorneys in the nation. Good friend of mine. And if we go off of what Jeff says, then I would say 90% of wholesalers are operating illegally.
Right.
And the reason why, and I've never said this publicly, but the reason why is because for a contract to be valid, there has to be intent, there has to be the ability and the means to perform on that contract.
Right.
So if you sign a contract as a buyer and you put in that contract, I'm going to pay for this with cash, and I'm going to purchase this property, and I'm going to create an equitable interest in this contract, but I don't have the means or the ability to perform on this contract. If push came to shove, I don't have the ability to perform and buy this property, then that is an invalid contract. Okay, and that's according to Jeff Watson, and that's actually being challenged. I mean, that's what they're challenging in Arizona right now. One of the things they're challenging in that lawsuit is that these wholesalers had invalid contracts because they were one-sided and they did not have the ability to perform as the contract stated. Right. So if that prevails in court, it will set a lot of precedents. But if you think about it, if you're truly honest with yourself, doesn't that make sense? How can you sign a contract that says, hey, I'm a buyer, I'm going to pay cash, and I'm going to buy this house in 30 days? When the reality is you have no intention of doing that. You're going to try to wholesale it. Now, I think 10% of the market that wholesales actually could and actually does sometimes. I'm one of them. Like, I buy a lot of property. I don't just wholesale. I buy a lot of property. I'm actually a buyer. So I can say with a straight face to a seller, hey, I might buy this and flip it. I might buy this and keep it as a rental. I might wholesale it. I do all of those things. So that's what I might do, seller. And I could say that with honesty and transparency. But for most wholesalers, they cannot say to a seller, hey, I'm a buyer, I might buy it. No, you're not. You have no way of buying it. Your only strategy, your only exit is to wholesale that contract. Right. And so that's a problem. That's a real problem that is going to keep coming to surface. And I think we're going to see more case law around this. I think we're going to see more regulation around this. And I think in the next 5 years, maybe it takes longer, I think we're going to see anything that has to do with equitable interest. And equitable interest is being defined now. This is what Tennessee defined it as. Equitable interest is when you're doing something before you have legal title to the property. So that's an assignment, that's a BC contract and a double closing, and that's a novation. Because in all of those strategies, you're transacting, you're contracting before you have legal title to a property. And so if that keeps being the way that we define wholesaling as selling your equitable interest, then we're going to start to see that get tightened and tightened and tightened until it becomes no longer. Like, at first it's going to be disclosure or maybe licensing, but that's not where the goal is. South Carolina is a great example. The goal is to stop it entirely. They do not want us transacting on something we don't actually own. That's the problem. And that's wholesaling.
Yeah. So what do you think the problem is? Do you think it's education where people have been taught the wrong way to wholesale, or not have multiple exit strategies? Or do you just think people are watching too many YouTube videos and think they know what they're doing without getting some context behind it?
Yeah. Well, it's a great question. And wholesaling used to be a plan B, meaning it was an obscure strategy. The buyer of a contract was always, plan A was to buy the property, and plan B would be if the investor had too many projects going on and he couldn't do it, and he would assign it to his buddy or something. It was never a full-blown industry where the only intent was ever to assign it. Right. I've never been that guy. I've never been a wholesaler only, an assignment of contract only. Now, the finger could be pointed at me of teaching an entire industry on how to wholesale correctly, how to do an assignment, all the strategies, how to be good at it, how to be effective at it. how to do it at a high level, how to build a business doing it. But I've never once in 20 years been a wholesaler only. I've never once said the right thing to do is to only wholesale and not do other things. I've always been a buyer. I've always flipped, fix and flipped. I've always bought property, resold it, bought property, fixed it, flipped it, bought property, rented it. I've always been a real investor doing multiple things. And I teach those other strategies. So the problem is when we create people that have no way of doing any other strategy except the assignment of contract. And it might have been okay before. It's just starting to become not okay anymore. And, because it was sort of like not getting much attention because it was not that big of a thing. Right. Well, if you look now, wholesaling is a multi-billion-dollar a year industry. It's a massive industry. So there are a lot of people wholesaling out in the marketplace. And so, of course, it's going to get attention. Of course, we're going to get the eye of consumer protection agencies and regulators, and there's going to be legal stuff going on around it. It's just inevitable now because it's big enough to catch the eye of all of this. So it means now that, hey, guys, we've taken this obscure strategy that used to be a plan B for real investors, and we've turned it into a full-blown industry, multi-million-dollar transacting, operators out there. And so now, guys, that we're so big, we have to start rethinking how we do things. And we got to start adjusting and making changes and having unified ways of doing things. We got to tighten up our contracts, our disclosure, all the things we're doing. We got to make sure we understand the laws in each state that we do deals in. So it's just putting a lot more onus on us and pressure on us as an industry to change the way we do things and operate differently than we did before. That's the pressure that we're all feeling. And some people are willing to step up to the plate, and a lot of people aren't. They don't want to change. They don't want to do things differently. They want to keep operating the old way, and the old way is going to drive our industry into the ground.
Yeah, unfortunately, some people just, like you said before, I think are about the dollars and not really about doing things the right way. And that was going to kind of lead into my next question as far as, being a member of Pace's community. He always talks about collaborating with other investors that have influence of people learning how to invest. And I was just curious if that was an option for you with the people that that are at that higher level of investing to influence that change. But it sounds like you've already had those conversations with some people, and some are willing to kind of modify the way they do things, and some are, it's working for me, I'm not changing it.
I mean, there's certainly some things that you can do that could maybe offset wholesaling or be, let's call it a workaround. And I'm not talking about a double closing. A double closing is no different at all. It's still wholesaling, because the idea behind a double closing is I'm still going to find my buyer, a predetermined buyer, before I purchase the property.
Right.
So where Pace is trying to teach, and I'm 100% on board with him, is if you're new to real estate and you don't have all the means to do things, align yourself with people in your industry, in your market, that are players, that are doing big things. Figure out how to be on their team, figure out how to bring them deals, figure out how to work under them or partner with them or collaborate with them. You become the newbie that's learning how to do the business the right way. Absolutely. And so I agree with that wholeheartedly. I also am a huge believer that there is a way to buy the dang thing. Just be a buyer. Don't find a predetermined buyer before you own the thing. Buy it, take it down, get the funding, purchase it, buy it at a discount still, and now you own it. And now resell it, clean it out and resell it if you want. Maybe fix it up a little bit if you want, but own the thing. Buy it on creative financing if you want. Like, buy it, take title, then do something to make money with it without a predetermined buyer. If you do that, no one's going to bother you whatsoever. Right. You don't have to have licensing. There's none of this disclosure. There's none of all these issues going on. It just cleans it all up, and it makes life so much easier. But it requires you take on some risk and you grow up and you become a real investor, because now you got to buy the dang thing, take title, take on inherent risk, and resell it. You can't just back out of a contract when you can't find a buyer with zero risk, nothing on the table. Like that's how people want to operate. They want to operate with zero risk at all. I don't even want to put down earnest money. And if it doesn't work out, I'll back out. I'll leave a seller high and dry. I don't care. I don't want to take on any risk. Well, guys, this is grown-up world here. This is the real thing. You gotta, if you're not willing to take on some risk, then you shouldn't be in the industry, I think.
Nope. I totally agree on that. I lost my train of thought there. You had hit the nail on the head.
And I think that's what PACE is trying to teach, and that's what I'm trying to teach is if you're coming into real estate and you've got your hand out and you want to make money with nothing on the line. I don't want to put down earnest money. I want a one-sided contract that I can easily back out of. I want it all for free. I don't want to pay for marketing. I don't want to build a team. But I want to make a bunch of money. Well, who doesn't want that? No risk, no effort, no work, no nothing, and make money, right? But that's not the real world. The real world is step up to the plate, put your neck on the line, at least a little bit in the beginning. You're never going to develop in this business if you're not willing to risk something. I mean, the value of anything is only ever equal to the sacrifice you made to get it.
Absolutely.
So if there is no value in something that doesn't require sacrifice and risk.
Agreed. And that's one thing I want to say to the audience. Jerry's putting his money where his mouth is. He's trying to develop a program where for people that are trying to get into that, where he can help you actually acquire the property legally, taking the title. So if you're watching
we call it the takedown method, and we're working a pilot program right now where we'll fund deals 100% for people to buy the house, to just buy it outright, 100% funding. Right. So I'm trying to bring new solutions to the market because I'm not an idiot and I see the writing on the wall. And if you can't see the writing on the wall, guys, just go through my playlist on YouTube on regulation and see all the states and all the laws that are being passed one after another. And how could you not think that it's going to continue to happen at a faster pace, and that they're going to get even more regulatory, right? It's going to be even it's not like they're going to go lighter. They're going to go heavier.
Right. And if you're studying or you're investing, you have to understand, like Jerry's saying, understanding the signs, right? You have to learn when to pivot and make changes. Because if you wait till 4 or 5 years down the road, you're behind the Powerball, and that's too late. He's trying to give you guys an education now where you can actually make the change before it hurts you and still make money. He's providing you a solution where you can actually acquire it legally, taking title, and also trying to teach you a different way of doing it by either fixing it, turn around what they call wholetailing, right? You have that program as well. And so let's, as a community, listen to the guys that pioneered our ways. They're doing the study and they're doing the analysis. They're seeing what the writing on the wall. Let's kind of pivot a little bit, adjust our thinking. And let's do this the right way, so we don't have to worry about future.
I mean, honestly, Jose,
I guess.
Jose, like a really smart entrepreneur is anticipating things before they happen, or at least trying to, and then making the changes. And you want to make the changes one step ahead, not once you become obsolete and then change. Right. You want to be adjusting real time as the market shifts, as technology comes in, as regulation comes in, whatever's happening around us, interest rates, whatever, we want to be able to adjust. And the ones that are the most successful are the ones that adapt the fastest. And so all I'm trying to do is share with the community, the industry, what I'm doing, which is adjusting. Hey guys, I'm adjusting because of what's happening. Here's what I'm doing. Here it is for you. If you want to do it, if you don't want to do it, don't do it. I don't really care, but I'm going to share what I'm doing and why I believe in it. And if you believe the same, then you can do the same. If you don't, then wait until you're the Titanic on the way down before you do something about it, if you want. But I don't want to. I want to see the iceberg in the water before we hit it.
Absolutely.
and then use the rudder to move that way and not hit the thing.
So my next question for you is, what advice do you have for new investors looking to build a long-term business instead of chasing trends?
Well, so I'm a fundamentalist in real estate. And what I mean by that is I believe there are some very basic strategies that everyone in real estate needs to understand and grasp and implement and build a solid foundation. If you can't build a solid foundation, then you'll always be blown with the wind, and you'll be out of business one day because you're not following sound business practices. And so one of the things I teach, you've got to be acquiring property at a specific discount. That discount needs to give you room to be successful. It needs to give you margin of error. Like there's certain principles that if you follow consistently, you'll stay safe in deals. And there's a way to build a company. There's a way to build a team. There's a way to get capitalized for doing deals. Like there's a way to do this stuff that is it's slow, it's steady, and it's building a solid foundation. So that way you have a building that will last through weather and wind and change, and that needs to be able to pivot. So the change is going to happen. So you got to be able to move on the fly. But if you've got the fundamentals in place, then that business can shift when it needs to shift, and it will continue to be successful. And so, for example, to me, one of the fundamentals of a real estate business is becoming capitalized. You have to be able to raise money for deals. You got to be able to understand finance and how to structure finance. You got to be able to know how to do sales and marketing. This takes time to learn how to do sales. It takes time to learn how to market effectively, right? You need to learn how to lead a team, organize people, hire and fire. These are things that in real estate, I see people just try to shortcut all this stuff and not do the right things to build a successful company. And so those are the things I believe wholeheartedly in that you've got to learn how to do. And I talk all the time about, because that's how you build a sustainable, predictable business.
So on that note, it used to be, I don't say it used to be, maybe still is, that entry into real estate was usually people start off with wholesaling.
Mm-hmm.
And now, you have other ways, cold calling, right? Bird dogging for people, getting on people's teams, as you mentioned before. And then you also have people that you can actually, as you're building your team, fractionalizing those positions. Can you kind of share how you've kind of leveraged those different aspects as you try to build your team?
Yeah, definitely. So I'm a big believer in building a team around a pay structure that is based on production or commission or results. So I'm a big believer in commission sales for my acquisition team and my disposition team. I'm a big believer in having partners that have equity in the company, and now they have ownership and they treat it serious, and they're worrying about the company late at night, not me as much. Right. And so I believe in finding a structure where people feel like there's no ceiling on what they can do. And so I'm constantly looking at ways to where I can take people on my team and say, okay, how do you treat this not like a job or a paycheck, but how can I bring you in to really own the thing, own your role in the organization? And I find that the way you attract superstars, the level A, the A players,
right,
is you cannot compensate them hourly and have an A player on your team. They're going to want some sort of incentive where they feel like they can keep growing and that there's no cap on their income. And so I sit down with an acquisitions person on a wholesale team, and I say, look, this is the potential in year one if we hit these metrics of how much you can make at this commission structure. But this isn't where I want to be. I want to be here, which means it's going to be a lot of work. I don't know how long it'll take us. I'm willing to plow the money into the marketing and the structure of this company. But if you come and you bring all you've got, this is what the upside could look like for you. This is what this could be for you. and paint that vision and be the visionary. Help the people see where you're going, what you're trying to build, why it matters, and how they can participate. If you can't do that, you won't attract A talent. And you have to be an A leader to attract A talent. So if you're not an A leader, you'll never get A talent. If you're a B leader, you'll get B talent. If you're a C leader, you'll get C talent. Talent only ever matches the leadership in the organization, because that A talent will just go to another organization that's got A talent. They'll hitch to a train going places if you're not.
Right.
And so I find that I spend a lot of my time vision casting, like helping everybody understand and see the bigger picture. That's my job as a visionary. So I think that's just really critical to get a good team put together, is to be building that vision all the time.
Gotcha. So another question for you is, what do you think your superpower is over your competitors in real estate?
Wow, that's a great question. I think probably just consistency. And I mean, I feel like I'm a pretty good business guy. I'm a pretty good deal structure guy. I'm a pretty good closer, pretty good sales guy. I'm pretty good at that stuff. But where I've won this game, if you want to call it that, or where I've kind of
Succeeded.
Yeah, risen to the top or whatever, is just sheer plow forward no matter what, right? Like I've been around a long time. People come and go, come and go, come and go. They move on to other things, and I've been consistent. I've been wholesaling and flipping for 20 years. I've been teaching how to do it for 15 years. I put out content every single week without ever missing. Most people aren't doing that. They're not willing to do that. They're not consistent. They don't put the work in over and over and over. They don't do the boring. It's just boring. Most of what I do is boring. It's tedious. It's monotonous, but I just keep doing it and doing it and doing it. And so that's allowed me to sort of rise to the top through just sheer grit and hard work and consistency. And if more people applied that, more people would inch their way, crawl their way to the top of the hill. Like there's no shortcut to the top of the hill. You got to just fight and claw your way there. And that's all I've done. It's not even really that exciting of a story. I've just clawed my way for 20 years, fallen down, I get back up. I fall down, I get back up again and again and again.
And there's your tenacity. That's awesome. So it's funny you mentioned hill, because my next question to you kind of refers to that. Back in, I think it was Boston, I'm a member of Owners Club. I'm not sure you're aware of that. And Pace told us to create or to think about what our Mount Everest is. And we had Stacey Allison at Squad Up. Yeah. So I'm going to pose that question to you. And if you can, I hope you can answer without being put on the spot. But what is your Mount Everest? What is your goal or your vision for where you go from where you are now? Because some people look at you and like, you made it, you're at the top. And now that I've been exposed to Jamil, you and Pace, I know that even when you get to what we think are the top, is probably just a summit. There's always something that you can go higher. So if you can, could you share that with us, what your Mount Everest is?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, I mean, I think I've probably got a couple, and I think of them like I'm just thinking of a Mount Everest as this big, audacious project that I'm trying to do. One of them is PropWire. It's a software that I developed. We have several 100,000 users now. I want millions of users on that platform. I want to build the biggest data providing software. We're actually number 2 right now under PropStream in usage and traffic and all of that. So we've done that in 2 years. I've got millions of dollars invested of my own money into that project, but I want to see it expand. I want to see it grow. I want to see it reach outside of real estate investing and reach agents and any home-based service people, which we have. We have people that do heating and cooling that are getting our data. Anybody that's looking for seller data could use our software. So I have a huge vision of what that software can become. And I think it could be, $100 million software one day. So that's the Mount Everest that I face, that I'm trying to climb, is that one. Right. Another Mount Everest in my life is like we said, I have 10 kids, and we have 2 groups of 5. So I have my first 5 and my second 5. There's a 4-year gap between 5 and 6. So my wife and I kind of talk about our kids as 2 families. We have our olders and our littles.
Right.
And I bought a farm in Tennessee, and I want to create a different experience for my second 5 than I did with my first 5. My first 5 got to travel, got to see a lot. My second 5, I want them to be outside a lot. I want them to be on a farm, taking care of animals, growing their own food. I want that. We homeschool. I want their homeschool experience to be on a farm outside, not inside on an iPad. Right.
Gotcha.
So I'm trying to build this farm experience, and I want to be heavily involved in the farm. I want to be outside a lot more than I am. So where I'm going with this is, I want to try to figure out, my Mount Everest is, how do I continually build my business, continually make more money, but create a lot more space and time in my life to do the farm with the family. So it's sort of like this idea of like, how do I work less but make more money?
Yeah.
And it's audacious because those two don't usually go together, like work less, make more. It's usually work more, make more. And I want to figure out how to work less, make more. Because what I don't want to do is work less, make less. That doesn't work for me. So now I'm spending a lot of time trying to figure out how to develop out my businesses that don't involve me so much. So
Gotcha.
It's going to mean traveling less for things, and just being very strategic about what I say yes to, and making sure that I'm very clear on that. And it's been hard. I like to work, and so that's been, for me, that's going to become and is a Mount Everest that I'm trying to face right now.
Awesome. Thank you.
I don't know if that's what you thought I would say or expecting.
I didn't know what you were going to say. I was kind of like leaning on the edge of my seat to see what you were going to answer. So I appreciate that. Just to the audience, just to kind of take a couple steps back, PropWire, people talk about buying software and stuff like that. Jerry's software, he has a free version and a paid version, and you can get a lot even from the free version. Cash buyers, trying to think what else just
all the seller leads. Yeah,
all the seller leads and stuff like that. So if you're trying to get into investing in real estate and you don't have a lot of money to invest, he makes it easy for you. Mm-hmm. He has the software that you can basically start analyzing and comping properties with basically no money out of your pocket. That's a huge step, because you've mentioned this, I think, on a couple of your videos, where when you first started, you had to go down to the courthouse to look at courthouse records to get properties and stuff like that. You didn't have it at your fingertips. So mm-hmm. You add that simplicity to people that are trying to invest today.
What we've done on the software is we've got lots of free seller leads, and they're free to you. They're not free to me. I pay for the data, and I pay a lot of money to get the data. We make it free so that way you don't have to pay a subscription or any kind of upsell charges for the data. You don't get 10,000, then we charge you more for 97 bucks a month, none of that. But then we have specialty leads that are manual. We actually have teams of people that pull these records at the county level, and like probate, bankruptcy, divorce, liens, all kinds of liens. And so those are we call them premium leads, and there is a fee for those, but only because we take on a lot of additional costs to get that data. And we're going to continue to expand on our premium leads, our specialty leads. Like, we're going to be getting water shutoffs and all, we've got a list of other types of leads that are kind of hard to get or manual to get or tricky to get. And we're going to continue to build out, because I want to be able to provide every possible opportunity of a seller lead that somebody could go after to get a distressed property at a discount. And, so there is a charge for some of that, but you could go in there and use all the free stuff. And we have people doing, multiple deals a month using our data for absolutely free. So it's pretty cool.
So I want to circle back with your kids. As an investor, I have 4 kids, and would love for them to kind of get involved in this. I know when I see you at some of the events and not to leave it at events, you bring your family with you. Are any of your kids interested in? I know I've seen a couple of videos where you actually had them comping or calling, cold calling for you. So
Yeah,
are there
yeah. I
anyone
mean,
like interested in doing this?
I mean, my oldest son runs my hotel, so he's in the business.
Yeah.
And my next two have done some wholesaling. But they're young and they're trying to figure out their life. And my third son, Jonathan, who I've done a lot of videos with, he's done some wholesale deals and bird dogged some deals for me and stuff. He's at school right now. He's talking about becoming a lawyer. So for me, I really don't care if they do the business, if they stay in the business. I don't put a lot of pressure on them to, you have to do this, or I'm expecting you to take over my empire. None of that. My big thing with my kids is I want you to be self-driven and self-taught and know how to learn. If you know how to learn, there's nothing that can stop you. And I don't really, I could care less what it is you do. I do think you should own the thing. So like whatever it is you want to do, own the business.
Sure.
I think that's a smart way to go, but find the thing that resonates with you, that you care about, that you want to do. I tell them you're going to spend most of your adult life working. So make sure you do I tell them right now, when you're young, try lots of things, do lots of things to learn and get experience and see what you like and don't like, So for me, it's, I want to expose them to entrepreneurship and I want to expose them to opportunity. And I want to make sure that I'm conveying, I want to show up in the way that is important to me. Whether or not they take it and run with it or do something with it is totally on them. And I respect that decision. I just want to feel good about showing up in the best way I can as a dad.
Right.
And to me, that means I'm going to tell you guys my belief systems around things like college and owning a business and finance and real estate. And you take what you want from that. But I got to share with you where I sit with it all, and give you that opportunity, and then you make decisions on your own.
That's crazy because you said you homeschool your kids, and I'm sure now getting a college level education on finance, which kids these days I feel don't get that kind of financial education, which is a detriment to our society.
Sure.
So they're lucky to have you to share that knowledge that you've learned. So I got another question for you. Is like, you've been dropping knowledge on YouTube for about 15 years now. What's the biggest lesson you've learned about staying relevant in real estate and content creation? Because this is fairly new podcast for me. I started back in September, October, actually November, because it was after Boston. And I want to stay relevant. I want to make sure that I'm providing relevance to people, things for them to stay watching my channel. So what have you done, or I guess to answer that question, like what's the biggest lesson you've learned in trying to stay relevant?
Well, so if we take content, for example, let's take that one for a minute. The advantage I have is much of my growth was when there was low competition. So there was a time where I was the only educator in real estate on YouTube, really.
Right.
And so, I got to kind of own the space for a second. Today, it's much different. Today, it's highly, highly competitive. I mean, if you start a YouTube channel today and to grow that YouTube channel in any given niche, you have a massive uphill battle to go against, or a podcast, or really any social platform. It's massive competition, and it's huge, and it's going to be a lot of work and a long time to get that algorithm to start to show you love.
Right.
So like you said, this is the 50th episode of your podcast.
Yep.
You may have to be willing to do 1,000 podcasts to see some traction, to get some, like it may be that thing. It may be that hard to grow. And most people have really unrealistic expectations. They think they can make 10 YouTube videos and then they'll be on the map. And the reality is you might have to make hundreds or thousands before you get much growth.
Right.
Unless somehow you find some unique niche or whatever. But So people have to know right now going into the space, you better be really clear about your why. You better really feel confident in what it is you're trying to do and what your expectation for a return is on doing that. And so I tell a lot of people, I don't know if creating content is a very smart move. Now this goes against what a lot of people say. So this is going to be sort of controversial, but it takes a lot of time and effort to create content. If you want it to be somewhat decent, it's going to take a lot of effort.
Sure.
And that effort, there's opportunity cost in everything we do. It's a trade-off. So right now you're spending time on this podcast with me, interviewing somebody. And the question you need to be asking yourself is that the best use of my time? Because when I'm doing this interview with Jerry, I could be doing something else. And is the something else I could be doing going to move the needle in my life and business more? And I think it's bad advice to tell somebody, hey, you should start a podcast because that's going to build your brand, or you should put out content every single day on Instagram because that's going to build your brand. Most people don't need to build a brand for a while. Most people need to transact. They need to do deals. They need to make money, not make content. And so it may be the right thing to do, and it may not be the right thing to do. I'm not saying it's one way or the other. I'm just putting a judgment around. I'm posing the question, is it the right thing for you to do? What is the reason you're doing it? What are you hoping to accomplish? And are you willing to do what it takes to get the return on that investment? Because if you're unclear about it, you're going to be very disillusioned and very disappointed when you're not getting the outcome you're thinking you're going to get when you're a year in, 2 years in, and it's still not producing the results you were hoping. And so that's why there's such a massive barrier to entry. Thousands and thousands and thousands of people start a podcast or a YouTube channel, and very few stick with it to see it become something. And I get it, like it's hard. And you wake up one day and you say to yourself, this really isn't providing the value I thought it would, and you stop doing it.
Right.
And a lot of those people could have avoided all of that wasted effort had they just had a lot more of a realistic expectation on what they're doing. So I don't think everybody should do a YouTube channel. I don't think everybody should do a podcast. I don't think everybody should be putting content on Instagram. I don't think that that's what everybody should do.
That's fair.
I heard Alex Hormozy one time talk about, go do something big in your life and then have something to talk about.
There you go. Yeah.
Do the thing and become good at something and now have something to talk about.
Right.
That's what he did. You didn't even know who that guy was until he sold his gym business for $100 million.
Yeah.
Now he had something to talk about.
Yeah. And then point to something like, I can proofs in the pudding. Look what I just did. So yeah, absolutely. So looking back at your 20 years of investing, is there one deal that kind of sticks out to you that was like a pivoting point in your, for lack of better terms, career, that either you learned a valuable lesson from, or like you said, it could have been whether you decided to stop doing real estate, or it was the thing that said, yes, this was what I was meant to do?
Yeah, there was a period in real estate where I made a transition to focus my real estate investing on margin over volume. And what was happening is, at the time I was wholesaling and I was fixing and flipping in Metro Detroit. And I was down in the entry level homes. So at the time, this was like $150,000 starter houses.
Okay.
And, I'd buy them for 75. I'd put 25 into them and I'd sell them for 140, 150. And I'd make 25 grand, 30 grand on average. And then I did a deal. And this deal, I attribute to massive transformation in my business and life. And what happened is a real estate agent brought me a lead that was in a price point I had never done a deal. It was a $400,000 house. It was like $385 is what I sold it for, or something like that. And I did the exact same thing I did on my little houses. You know, I bought it. I used hard money, private money. I used contractors. I bought materials at Home Depot, whatever, and I fixed it up. I put it up for sale and I flipped it. Same thing I did on the other ones. But on that deal, I made $75,000, not $25,000. And a light bulb moment went off in my head. And I said to myself, that was just as much work to do that deal as the other deals I do. But that one made 75 and the other one made 25. A little bit more capital, maybe a little bit bigger of a home, a little bit more of a rehab, but basically the same thing. One made 75, one made 25. And that one deal changed everything for me in my life. Because then I started to focus on doing bigger deals, not more deals.
Right.
And now I do, every year I try to do one or two or more multi-million-dollar deals where they make $1 million or more on one single deal. And even my right down to my wholesale business, I want to be doing $50,000 assignments, not $5,000 assignments. Right? I'd rather do 5 deals that make 25,000 each than 10 deals that make 5,000 each. There's something that happens when you focus on a margin business instead of a volume business. And it's one of the biggest lessons I've learned in real estate is to push the margin, not the volume.
That's awesome.
I mean, maybe do both, like have a high volume and high margin. That would be the best. But you know what I mean? Life is good when you do fewer deals.
Sure.
Life is better. Life is always better when you do fewer deals.
Like that.
So do fewer deals that make a whole lot more. That next year, after I did that $75,000 deal, I went from doing 50 deals a year. I think that next year I did maybe 10 or so. And I made more money doing 10 than I did doing 50.
That's crazy, isn't it?
And my life was way better.
And less stressful, I'm sure.
Less stressful, less anxiety, less moving parts, less contractors, less deals everywhere. Like just everything got better.
So I got one final question for you. Well, second to last, I should say. People may not think about this, but what is it that somebody could bring value to you in your business?
Well, I have a finder program. We call it 10K Club. And if you go to my10kcheck.com, you can register for a training. But it's a bird dog program. And I basically lay out my program and I give tools and resources and training. And what I do is I try to create a little army of finders that go out and find deals. And it's been fantastic because I get a lot of deals that way. And so I use the platform to get people to bring deals and I pay them $10,000 for every deal they bring me. So it's just an awesome way for people to get into the business because I'll be your buyer. And so that's a really cool thing that people could do. Like, hey, how do I bring value to you? Well, you got to be in my program because it's a very specific thing. We have a portal where you upload your deals. Like you got to be in the program, but it's awesome because you win, I give you $10,000. I win, I get another deal. You know what I mean? So yeah. I think it's been one of the smartest things I've ever created was this program. And so if people want to register for the training, learn about how to do it and be part of that, they can just go to my10kcheck.com and they can register for training. But I would say that would be one way would be get in my program and bring me deals. You'll win too, but that's kind of what I'm looking for.
And is really low threat too. And talk about risk. I mean, there's really no risk other than your time, right?
I mean, we give proof of funds. We give so it's anybody can come in and do that program and get $10,000. If you put in the work and you go find the deal, if it's the criteria, I'll pay you $10,000 for it.
That's
so
awesome.
Pretty awesome.
Well, everybody knows who you are, Jerry. And I mean, if anybody watches any of your videos, you have 10,000 ways to get a hold of you. But just for the audience, what's the best way if they wanted to reach out to you to ask a question or get involved in some of the things that you're doing? How can you get
Yeah, I mean, I'm very personal and hands-on with my mentoring community. It's called Fast Track. So if people really want to interact with me on a close basis, I interact with that group every week live, and like I'm all into serving them. If it's just the general public, then I try really hard to answer my YouTube comments on my videos. So if you're on my videos and you're commenting, I personally look at those. I have a team that watches all the other socials, but you could DM me, and I can't promise it won't slip through the cracks. But I'm here to give and serve, but I've also got limitations on what I can do. And so there is some exclusivity to that, because I have to limit my time to interact with just certain people in certain situations, clearly. But yeah, I try my hardest to give. But really, the best way that I found for me to really give value is through my YouTube content. Absolutely free. I put my heart and soul into that work. And anybody that's really serious about learning the business, just subscribe and watch those videos and get involved. And there isn't a single topic you could possibly imagine related to wholesaling or flipping that I don't have a video on or multiple videos on.
Absolutely.
It really is the ultimate library of learning.
Yeah. I can honestly say that I've gotten hundreds of nuggets watching your videos and applying them to my business and making money off of them. So
that's
again,
awesome.
I appreciate you sharing your knowledge as you have learned, what are valuable lessons to you, or maybe costly lessons to help me avoid them.
Yeah. I mean, that's it, right? Because most of the content I put out, it's like, hey, I did this wrong and messed up and had consequences. Here's how you could avoid that same mistake.
Yeah,
like,
pretty much.
I mean, you can't avoid all mistakes because you have to go out there and fall on your face on your own.
Right.
But what if you could avoid a lot of unnecessary mistakes? That would be pretty cool. So like part of the YouTube channel is like, guys, this will not only help you avoid making costly mistakes that you don't need to make. It'll also help you do things that maybe would have taken you a year or two to figure out. I'll share with you how I figured those out already. And so it just can shortcut for sure a lot of growth.
Agreed. Well, fam, that ends another episode of The Good, Bad, and Ugly. Jerry, thank you so much for taking time for to talk with me and talk to the audience. As I said, you are very well respected in the industry, and always love hearing what you got to say and sharing your life and your family with us at all the different events. And thank you, if I haven't already told you, for opening to your home to us during our community camp last year. I really appreciate that. And to the audience, to the next episode. See you later, fam.
See you guys. Thank you.